One of the most important parts of any asylum case is the written declaration that many applicants provide. Now, this document helps the judge or the asylum officer to understand the case and can really be an asset if it's done correctly. But most people don't do it correctly. And there's one aspect in particular that people really tend to mess up. One aspect that's incredibly important to their case, but which almost no asylum seekers do right. And I'm talking about the way in which you describe incidents of past harm in your asylum declaration. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how you should go about this. I'm going to give you a framework for describing past harm in a way that will give the judge or asylum officer all of the information that they need in order to see that you really have been persecuted and that you deserve asylum in the United States. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying, and I'd especially like to hear from you if you've been waiting for an asylum interview for multiple years. All right, there are 7 steps to describing an incident of past harm in your asylum declaration, which is sometimes referred to as a personal statement or perhaps as an asylum story. Now, this is a short statement, ideally 3 or 4 pages, in which you're telling the decision maker everything they need to know so they can see that you meet all of the requirements for asylum before you step in the door for your asylum interview or for your testimony on the day of your individual hearing in immigration court. You're going to follow this framework, these 7 steps for each incident of past harm in your case, for every time that you've been hurt in your country, okay? All right, number 1, provide the date. Well, it's best to provide the exact date of the incident, but if you can't remember the exact date, then provide the approximate date, or at least give a general time frame. For example, you can reference holidays, seasons, or major events if it's helpful for placing the incident. So for example, if you know something happened in the days before Christmas, but you're not sure exactly when, well, you could say something like, it happened a few days before Christmas in December 2023. Okay. Number 2, provide a bit of context by including the location and what was going on when the harm occurred. So for example, you could say, I was in my hometown walking home alone after leaving my political party's headquarters, which is on Main Street, when 3 men approached me on the road. I was about a block from my house on Andover Street when I heard them shout out my name. All right, next, number 3, you need to give details that, to the best of your ability, help to identify the perpetrators. If you know their names, then of course, state the names, and also explain how you know the people. Now, if you don't know them, but you believe they're affiliated with a certain organization, then explain the basis for this belief by providing observable details about their conduct or dress. For example, I believe they were government supporters because their t-shirts had the ruling party logo on them. Asylum officers often want to know details about what the people were wearing, so try to provide those. Also, state how many individuals were present, giving an estimate if the exact number is unknown. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. All right, we're at number 4 on our list of the 7 things that you need to include when you're describing an incident of past harm in your asylum declaration. And this one, number 4, is what was said. Now, this is very important. The judge or asylum officer will definitely want to know what the persecutor said, if anything, as they approached you, during the attack on you, and as they were leaving. Provide as close to a verbatim account as memory permits about what threats or demands the persecutors made, or really anything at all that they said. If you're unable to recall the precise wording, which is of course understandable, well, then preface with something like, well, they said something to the effect of, before going on to give your best recollection of what was in fact said. Now, what the perpetrator said is very important because it often helps us to understand their motive in targeting you for harm. Now, the motive, is important because in order to win asylum, you need to connect the persecution to one of the 5 protected characteristics under US asylum law. And those 5 protected grounds are your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or something called membership in a particular social group. Okay, number 5, you need to describe in detail what the bad guys actually did to harm your body. Many asylum seekers just say something vague like, they beat me. Well, this is not helpful. In fact, it's incredibly frustrating to the asylum officer or judge when they see this in a declaration or they hear it in testimony. It's vague and it does nothing to help the decision maker understand whether the harm that you suffered was sufficiently severe to rise to the level of persecution. You see, you've got to explain exactly what was done to hurt you. Now, this means including things like what parts of your body were impacted or harmed, and what object or weapon was used to hit you, the approximate number of blows that you received, how long the attack lasted, and how it ended. For example, you could say something like, 3 of the men who attacked me had baseball bats and hit me over 20 times on my arms, legs, and back with the bats. 1 person struck me twice on the head with a bat. All 5 of the men kicked me repeatedly all over my body when I was on the ground, and several of them punched me, including at least once in the face. I'm not sure how many blows I received, but I believe it was at least 30, and I think the attack lasted about 3 minutes. The attack ended when my neighbor, Jorge, called the police and the men fled. Okay, next up, for number 6, you're going to talk about any injuries that you suffered and the treatment that you sought for those injuries, if you in fact did so. You'll want to specify the location and extent of any bruising or bleeding, or of course of any even worse injuries like broken bones, when and where you sought medical treatment, what tests or other exams were performed, and what the findings were, any treatment that was prescribed, like perhaps medication to deal with pain or a doctor's order to stay on bed rest for a while, how long you were at the doctor's office or hospital, and how long it took you to recover. All right, last but not least, number 7, if you reported the incident to the authorities, you need to say so. Explain when you went to make the report and how you did so. For example, did you go to a police station and file an official report in writing, or perhaps just call the prosecutor's office? Also, explain what the authorities did in response. What did they say when you reported the incident? Moreover, did they take any meaningful steps to follow up and investigate, or did they just kind of blow you off? Or maybe they explicitly told you that they would not help you. Whatever the case, it's good to note how the authorities handled your attempt to get help. Now, if you did not report the attack, explain why. So for example, maybe it was the authorities themselves who attacked you, so you don't think that going to the police would help. Or maybe you know that the police are in league with the gang or other group that harmed you. If that's the case, then just explain your thinking and your reasoning, okay? All right, follow this framework in describing incidents of past harm in your asylum declaration, and you'll be setting yourself up for asylum success. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then call my office today, okay? That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's an honor to support you in your asylum journey.